How's it going, everyone? JD here with Douglas Elliman out in Las Vegas and Nevada with another great video with another good person I'm going to interview with Douglas Elliman. This guy is the name of John Wilson out of Florida. He has amazing experience, but not in what you think, which is interesting. He's got 25 years in financial services in the Wall Street Journal. He's only have I'll tell you how many years he's had real estate experience, but I think his mindset sets him apart from anyone else, which is great. So he has a lot of experience on that. Coming out of Florida, like I said, recently won the Tom Ferry Award with Real Trends in 2023, the Diamond Award with Douglas Elliman too. So numerous awards, but I want to ask some questions on how he did it. So I'll bring him to the screen right now. We've got John Wilson out of Florida. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, JD. Thank you so much for having me on this. I love doing stuff like this, as you know.
That's great, man. Well, I honestly, you were recommended to me by one of our marketing coordinators out in Florida by the name of Noah. He said, hey, I see what you're doing. I think I have a guy for you that's going to be fantastic. He has a lot of good information, and he's just a good guy. And so that's why I reached out to you personally, John. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So like I said, John Wilson's been in the game, sort of, and I'm going to have him explain to you what that looks like. So I did mention you've been in the financial services for a long time, and then you got into the real estate. So I want you, this is the time, this is where you brag about what you do. I know sometimes it's uncomfortable bragging about yourself, but tell us how you got into the business, what did it all look like?
So how I got into the business was I was at church on Sunday, and my sister Leslie was sitting right next to me. At that time, Lisa and I were running our own business. It was a concierge service for wealthy clients, overseeing building projects at their house. It was a niche type of business, but we really liked it. I built my whole career on relationships and trust, and we would get into these huge homes on the ocean and things because they would be like, my client said, I can trust you. And at that time, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I was pretty comfortable. I was like chilling. I was working with Lisa. And so my sister was in church, and she writes on a notepad on her iPad, you should get your real estate license. And she hands it to me. I take the pen, I write no, I hand it back to her. And it was funny. I really owe a lot to Leslie for getting me into this, because the more I looked into it, the more I liked it and got excited about it. And the more people that I met at Elliman, which I'll talk about in a second. So I got into the business with Douglas Elliman. Lisa came in first because I had to wind down our business. So she came in first. I kept doing that. I remember that year of that transition. I couldn't stand it because I was chomping at the bit to get into the game. And I was a little bit, but not really. And then so I got my license with Elliman, and it didn't take me, honestly, I'm not bragging, like maybe 10 days to realize that real estate really wasn't about clients. Now, I know that sounds crazy and people will be like, what are you talking about? But when I got into Elliman and I saw this huge network of agents, I mean, thousands of successful people backed by this huge company with such strong reach, I was like, no, man, this is about agents. So I could take me, Lisa and I, John and Lisa Wilson agents, I could take us and I could try to build a business. And a lot of people do that. Or I could take me and Lisa together as a team and start to make relationships with thousands of agents around the country. And I can leverage my skills and by 1,000 times over. And so what I started doing was, in the beginning, I didn't start going to New York. I would go to a lot of, and you probably do the same thing, JD, but in the beginning, I went to a lot of events, any open house. I wanted to build relationships. I wanted to get to know people and get out there. And I've been that way my whole career.
Right.
I'm doing this call with you like this, but like I'm definitely a face-to-face person and a relationship person. And I started doing that, and we started to develop all these relationships with agents in Miami and Palm Beach. But then I took it a little step further, and I booked a ticket and I booked a room up in New York. And this is way before COVID. And I go up to 575 Madison, and I start going desk to desk. At that time, I think we had two floors of agents. I mean, there was many agents that you wanted to see. And so I went up dressed up in the silver hair, and I would go up and be like, go up to the, hey, my name's John Wilson. I'm with Douglas Elliman. And some people were like, whoa, who is this guy? But most people were super, super friendly and warm to me. Matter of fact, the third guy I Jeffrey Kaufman, who's now one of my closest friends
Nice.
at Elliman. And I did that for 2 days. Can I tell you, like, you might say, well, what happened? Like, what did you get out of it? Well, nothing. But that would also be like if I wanted to get in shape. Let's say, as you can see, I'm not a bodybuilder, but let's say I wanted to build muscles. I could go to the gym and I could work out, and I'll go to a mirror the next day. I see nothing.
No.
And I could do that for 2 days and 3 days and 4 days and see nothing. So at the time, it might not have looked like something, but it was really laying a huge groundwork of what I would do in the future, which meant going to different offices. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into.
No, that's fantastic. So that's amazing. Obviously, I want to go back into that, but I want people to understand tell me how long you've been in real estate. This is fascinating. How many years have you been in pretty much active full-time real estate agent? John, give me that number.
6 years.
That's incredible. 6 years, guys. I mean, so it just shows you, A, it's never too late to start something new, all right? And B, there's ways to do it and to catapult at a different level and a different speed, and it's being strategic, what John did. And I think it's phenomenal. And John, I did the same thing you did. When I brought on to Douglas Elliman, I was like, the agents is what makes the brokerage 100%. Douglas Elliman is a beautiful logo, don't get me wrong, but the agents is what makes the culture, right? And so I did the exact same thing. I was meeting people, going to new office openings, traveling around, doing presentations so they could get to know me. And to your point, did I get a call then that next hour? No, but I created that relationship, and now people are starting to go, oh, Vegas, JD's my guy, of course. And, and that's super important. I want to be that resource for those agents and another tool in their toolbox when they talk about other Douglas Elliman cities and markets, and they rely on me in that. So I think you did a great job on that. Walking 2 floors, hopefully you had your walking shoes, walking to all those desks, you know what I mean? And that's important. Showing faces is a big part of what we do too. So it's interesting. Some agents who come on board immediately become an agent, they go client-centric, hard. You went opposite. You went, I'm going to go agent-centric hard. Yeah. And it's paying tenfold, and I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times, even Howard will be like, the agents of Douglas Elliman, those are his clients.
Yes.
Those are his clients. That's why they spend so much time and we invest so much money in the latest technology and is to give us all the tools. I say this a lot to people, but when I got into Elliman, I realized I do new development real estate, not as much now as I did in the beginning, but I know that when we sell when I sell someone a residence and a new dev and it's sand, that's the best way to buy pre-construction real estate. No building, no buying sand. That's the best pricing you can get. And I have clients, I urge them to get in early. And what happens is they put their deposit down and they wait. And the waiting drives them crazy. And then we have a ground opening, it's gold shovels and everyone's celebrating. And they think, oh God, the building's coming up. But then they start to build the foundation and it takes forever. And they're like, what's taking so long? What's taking so long is the foundation, because everything that building will sit on is that foundation, that infrastructure. I realized that Elliman, to all of our agents, not just me, they give us a foundation, a platform in which you can build your business. And you're exactly right, JD. It's getting out there. It's going to events. It's meeting people. It's being active. Yeah, I've only been an agent for 6 years, but I'll tell you one thing. In that 6 years, I lived, breathed, and ate real estates and relationships.
Yeah.
It didn't matter where I had to go. I always, Lisa and we went to this, I think they're going to start doing it again, but we went to this Florida Connect. They were awesome.
Sure.
So they did a Florida to New York connection event where Florida agents, you'd have to pay for it, but you would go up to this event in New York, and Elliman had prearranged these meetings. So one day we went to the Fifth Avenue office.
Yep.
And then we went to an office in Connecticut, and we ended up at an office in the Hamptons. And there was an agent, an older guy. People always ask me, who was this guy? What was his name? I don't remember. I wish I did. I would have given him lots of money because his advice helped me tremendously. But he pulled me aside and he said, you know what? He goes, you Florida people, I love that. Florida people, he
Yeah.
goes, you Florida people come up here once a year and you walk into the office and you spend some time with us, but you never, you don't keep coming to build a relationship. You have to come up over and over and invest time. That was the best advice I ever got in real estate.
Yeah.
It clicked in my head. And Lisa and I were on our way home. They were having a party or something that night, but all my sons live in the city and I wanted to see them. So
Sure.
we were taking the Long Island Railroad on the way home. And I looked over at Lisa and I'm like, we're changing our whole game plan. We're going to just I have a marketing budget.
Yeah.
So we're going to pour all our marketing into building relationships with agents up in New York. And we talked about it. And we had a little saying of ours that was anytime, anywhere, anyhow. So if you were an agent and I was in New York and you said the only time I can meet you 11 o'clock, I'll be there at 11 o'clock.
There you go.
And we just started pouring money into traveling. And I was going to New York sometimes once a month, twice a month. And again, you might say to me, so that had to happen then. I mean, now you're going up more often. What happened then? Not a lot.
Yeah.
So it takes time
Just
to build this. It's not overnight. And I don't want to get too much into detail, but when COVID started, it was going to drive me crazy. As you can see, I'm not a calm, sit down, relaxing person, but I looked at my budget of what I spent, and I spent a lot. Try going to New York
yeah.
and taking the people coffee, lunch, breakfast, dinner, drink, and do that like 5 or 6 or 7 days straight. You're investing a lot into it. And the weird thing was, and this is what I want to talk about quick, is mindset.
Right.
Is because when I saw what I spent, and my wife's next to me, and she looks at me and she goes, anywhere, anyhow, anytime, it's not working. Because like, we were getting deals out of it, but nothing big out of
Sure.
it. And I almost at that point, and I'm very transparent. If I can't share with you sometimes my weaknesses, well, then how can I help you grow?
Right. Right.
So I got a little nervous and I got self-doubt. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe you ever have that happen to you? Like where you made a plan and it's not going. So I was like, wow. And I was uncomfortable. But if I would have stopped then, if I would have quit, because I always tell people the last half hour of faith on something you believe in, the last half hour is the hardest. It'll be the time that you most want to quit is that last half hour.
Absolutely.
And if I did, let's say I would be like, this isn't working. I would have got nothing out of it, but I stayed with it. And I almost emptied my whole budget. And then all of a sudden, JD, out of nowhere, COVID came on and it was just like, bam.
Yeah.
And it literally just swung the other way. And my phone just blew up that whole time.
That's awesome.
And I'm so glad I stuck with it. And I'm so glad I did it. And I just continue to do it. And what I'm sharing with you, anyone can do.
Yeah.
Anybody can do this.
Agree. I think it's important. I mean, I know you're big on mindset. I'm the same way in a sense where you got to be strong. I mean, obviously, and strong and also consistent in what you're doing and also believing what you're doing, right? Because if you believe what you're doing too, the people you're presenting to are going to believe in you as well, right? And that's important, right?
100%.
So that's it's true. If you go in half-ass, people are not going to fully take you on seriously, or he's like, oh, he's just showing face. I mean, he's doing this, but he's like, no, this guy is legitimate, coming out here all the time, talking about his products, talking about what he does, kind of thing. And to your point, anytime, any place, anywhere, he's there. I mean, that's fantastic. He is my go-to Florida guy, and that's huge. And you're right. I always say, when people say, during the hardest time of any kind of market or the most biggest shift, the agents who did their due diligence prior to that, all the work prior to that, are really going to excel during the tougher times because they did the legwork before. Right? If you didn't do that legwork before during COVID, a lot of agents didn't do well during that because they weren't prepared. They didn't do their work prior to that, right? And so that was huge. And I was the same way, John. When COVID happened, I kind of sat my team down and was like, all right, this is unprecedented time. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea, but stay strong. Let's continue doing what we're doing, kind of thing, and we'll ride this through. And my business took off. It really did. We had people, but what I said too is what made us successful during COVID and move forward is we were a team of resource. Like we were just saying, hey guys, we don't know what's going on either. We can't predict the future. We said, but we're here for you. We're literally here for you. So reach out to us if you have any questions. Reach out to us if you have any concerns. We want to support you. That's all we're here for. We're not going to say, hey, buy your home. No, we're like, hey, let us help you. That's all we're here for. And so we gotten calls like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. Well, we appreciate it. We feel comfortable. We're good. Or like, I do have a question. So it was a point of a place of caring versus, being a normal salesperson, as you will. Right. And so I think that's something that you also portray in what you do, because you say like, I love what I do. And I'm the same way. I love what I do. I love what I do. I'm lucky, and I'm sure you are too, that we found something we enjoy doing. And it's a privilege to do what we do at the level that we're doing as well, John.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I tell people all the time, God has blessed me so much. I could, like, of course, I'm 60. As a young guy, I had dreams and stuff like that, but where my life's come out to be and what I'm doing, I love what I do. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I literally get out of bed this way. And my wife sometimes is like, "Whoa, give me a second. I got to come up to where you are right now."
I'm the same way, John.
Yeah, but I just feel blessed. And you said something that was so important, caring. Um, I I've spoke to Howard about this before when I first met him, when I first got into the business, and he was like, "What's your business plan? What's your business model?" And it was funny, but I told him, I said, "My business plan is love." Now that sounds crazy, but I want people to feel that I truly care about them, that I want the best for the client. There's someone who's just trying to sell a house, and that's okay. That's nothing wrong with that, but I want to build a relationship with that client. I want to guide them. I want them to know that I'm here to advise them and not just sell them. And it was funny because Howard and I were talking about it. People try to fake that. Well, if you try to fake that, I'm going to tell you, I have bad news. They're going to smell you a mile away because you're not real. But if you truly care, if you truly will go that extra mile, they will see it. They will feel that vibe, that energy. I get all the time, your energy. They'll feel that energy coming up. And that's where you start to build a relationship instead of selling someone a house. Right now in our business, we're on our second and third round of purchases with previous clients who maybe bought something small. Now they want something bigger or for their kids. And so that caring means, I think, so much to the clients where it's going above the extra mile. And may I say also, not just with clients, even within the Elliman family, I talk a lot. I speak around the country about how great Douglas Elliman is. I mean, Scott and Steve Larkin, all those guys are like, I'm an Elliman cheerleader. I am. I'll put the sweater on and the pom-poms. I'm good with it because I believe in it. I've seen what it's done with me. And so not only do I build relationships with clients, but also caring for agents and helping them out. And if I see someone in the office, come on, let's be real. We all know if someone's down. You can see it in the way they're walking. If I see someone like that, I have my grandfather, my dad did this. You literally walk up, hey, how you doing today, man? What's going on? Let's talk. And you just can't believe, I've done that so many times. And you might be like, well, that's weird. It's not at all, because if you're real, they're going to pick that up. And I've had so many people text me the next day, hey man, thanks. I needed that. And if you're enriching the lives of others and not focusing just on you and my own business, what's going to happen is you yourself are going to grow. Because you're giving of yourself, and when you give of yourself, you open up to receive more. I don't know if that sounds too heavy, but it really works.
I totally agree. Especially what we do. We are in the business of serving our clients and serving them in a way that we're protecting them always. That's literally one of my scripts. Like, hey, I show you homes, but my goal is to protect you guys. That's literally my job, to protect you guys, right? This is your home. This is not my home. I'll tell you the pros and cons, everything you want to know that you should know, but I want to protect you, that you're protected. That's my job for you guys, okay? And that's part of my script too. And I think I've learned in the last, I'll say 2 years, John, in my business, that I was a grinder. I was doing deals and deals and deals. Kind of my blinders were on, doing volume. But then I wasn't doing my best on reaching out just to reach out. Just to say, hey, how are you? what's going on? How is your daughter? Like, hey, did you go to that game you went in? And
Right.
I was hard. It was because I was so in my business, right? And then when I finally took time to reach out, I realized that I was missing a big component of my business. I was still getting the referrals, but I think I've deepened those relationships even more so that I became part of the family in a sense with a lot more of my clients, which is awesome. And that's
Yeah.
something that I'll always cherish. And I think that's also made me obviously really fall in love with the business even more. I was like, cool, I'm creating these beautiful, deep relationships that will never go away, and I love it.
Yeah. And relationships obviously um, are the key to life.
Yeah.
Not even business, just interacting with other people. I remember. I want to talk just a second
You're good.
about mindset, unless you want to talk about that later.
Let's go. No.
Um, but it's mindset is so key. I remember sitting at my table during COVID and like, wow, this isn't working. Yes, because my wife would be like, all you keep doing is spending money and traveling, but that's what I do. That's what I love to do. Anyone will know this, but I was uncomfortable at that time. I really was uncomfortable. But what I've learned, and I knew this before, and we all learn it in life, is you're not going to get where you want to go by being comfortable. It's a principle. It will not work. It will
Right.
not work. I'm not saying that you have to go through life. Let me state this. Doesn't mean you have to go through life always stressed out. No, house on fire every day person is a person that most people back away from and they over. I always try to remain calm, but
Sure.
being uncomfortable to get comfortable, it's a principle of life. Like I used earlier about a gym, and
Yeah.
so if I go to a gym and I want to get bigger, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be sore. I'm going to be using muscles I haven't. I'm probably going to go home that night and be like, oh, and take a Tylenol or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the more I do it, and my muscles get trained up, the more I'll be less uncomfortable and start to become. But that takes time. If I want to lose weight, I'm going to be uncomfortable not eating the things that I usually ate that help contribute to me gaining weight,
Yeah.
and that's going to be uncomfortable. And it's a principle of life, of even nature. And now I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you've heard this before. Some people
Please.
have, but how an eagle builds its nest is so amazing. So an eagle starts out and it takes thorns and rocks
Yeah.
and it builds the foundation. We talked about a
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah.
It builds a foundation and then watch what it does. Then it goes out of the frame of the nest and it starts to gather leaves and pine needles and it starts to cover the rocks and the thorns with all these pine needles. And then listen, it's amazing how nature works. When the eagle is about to give birth to the eaglets, naturally it starts shedding its feathers. And as it's shedding its feathers, it's moving them around the sun. And what those feathers are doing, they're falling in the nest.
Yeah.
And they're building, if you will, a down comforter,
Yeah.
like a soft, cozy space for the eaglets. And the eaglets are born, and it's awesome, and they're nice and cozy and warm. But the mom knows that they can't stay that way forever because what they think is comfortable will stop them from experiencing true freedom, which is to fly.
Yeah.
And so, what the eagle does is when the eaglets are ready, it starts taking its pinions and it starts pulling the feathers
Out.
around and it starts flapping its wings and it starts to remove the feathers and the leaves and the pine needles. And guess what? We're back to rocks and thorns. And it forces the eaglets to be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is this is uncomfortable. But then when they start to fly, this is amazing. It's the same thing with us. You're uh, kind of embrace being uncomfortable sometimes, if you will, because you're on your way to being successful and more comfortable. So don't like it's okay to have self-doubt. I just sat here and told you that I had it recently, but you just can't stay there is the problem.
Of course. I think it's important. I think every successful person has self-doubt, and that's important. That's what keeps us going, keeps us generating new ideas, right? And I think it's important. I mean, yeah, for sure. I think everyone has self-doubt and has, a point where like, hey, do I belong here? Should I be
Yeah.
doing this? All this stuff. That's important. But to your point, that should be a short time where you kind of snap at him and go, let's go. You know what I mean? And that's important, you know, but you're right. You can't stay in that status for so long, because that will overcome you and overtake you. You definitely don't want that. But that's a great analogy, the eagle. I like that a lot. And I think you're right. You got to be uncomfortable. That's important. Like moving for me. So I've been in Douglas Elliman just about a year now, just hit my year mark. So for me, going to this company was a leap of faith, in a sense where I knew what you guys were about. I knew the top people were, I mean, some of the best agents, if not in the country, were a part of this team, right? I'm like, now I'm part of that. Like, all right, let's step up my game. And that was like, all right, here we go. Let's, it's time to get out of that nest, right? And so that's exactly what I feel like when it came to Douglas Elliman. And so I'm around some heavy hitters and amazing people like yourself, and I was like, cool, I want to be part of that. And before I was a big fish in a small pond. Now I'm a small fish in a big pond. You know what I mean? And I like that feeling, because that's cool. Like, now I need to show my worth. I got to do that and all that stuff. So it's a great opportunity for growth for me and my team. Which goes into my next question for you, John. So what does your business look like here in 2023? Obviously, this is an unprecedented year. The rates are just interesting. You know, people are moving all over the place. People are able to work from home now. I mean, so it's a lot of shift going on. What does your business look like right now, and what are you doing? And of course, we're already halfway done with the year, which is crazy.
So right now, we talked about this, I think last night or the night before on the phone when you and I were chatting, that
Yeah.
like the Florida market, it's not slowing down.
Yeah.
Has it cooled off right now? It has, in the sense that this is probably the first year. So I grew up here.
Okay.
I grew up in Florida,
What
literally
area?
in Fort Lauderdale, on
Okay.
the ocean, on a stretch of beach called Gold Ocean Mile. It's still there. My dad came here in the 60s and started buying pre-construction real estate. And I have a photograph of me. I'm probably like 6 years old, next to Johnny Carson on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, because my mother, she loved walking the beach, and I couldn't sleep as a kid. Obviously, you kind of can see why, but I didn't sleep well as a kid. I'd stay up late, and one of my favorite shows was Johnny Carson. And I see him, and my mother's like, go up to him. And he was the coolest guy. So I'd been here for a long time. And what happened was you could set your watch to it. As soon as Passover and Easter was over, it was like there was like a mass exodus out of Florida. Like, they all went back up north, and we loved it. We got our restaurants back. There was less traffic.
Yeah.
As time has gone by, that's really less and less. Well, during COVID, no one left. My point in telling you that story is that this was the first year where people, they feel better, they're not so worried about, and they're traveling to Europe and all over.
Yeah.
So, but even in spite of that, and not a lot of people, pre-construction real estate is booming. I will say, anyone that's listening to this podcast, reach out to JD. You have to look at these Florida developments right now. I'm Douglas Elliman, hands down, we own new development in Florida. Sorry, we own it. And we have so many phenomenal projects, and a lot of people wouldn't want to buy pre-construction during COVID because that was like a get in now mentality, but things have slowed down. And I have clients from Maryland and from Pennsylvania and from New York, all buying pre-construction real estate right now. So the market remains strong here. So what my business looks like is in the early part of the year, there wasn't a lot of inventory, so I wasn't going to let that stop me. I just can't accept that and be like, oh, well, there's no inventory. Then do something. Be active. So what I did is I started, and any at the Elliman agent can do this. And if you need help, reach out to JD or me. I'll show you how to do it. But you can start marketing these properties like Olara in Palm Beach. And like Ritz-Carlton residences in Palm Beach Gardens that are both selling at a great pace. And you can start to show clients all these different projects very easily. You'd be surprised how many people, they just don't know about it. So what I did was, there was a lot of inventory. I made my own inventory. I started pushing new dev a lot, and Lisa and I did some really, really nice transactions and new development constructions, all client. Remember I told you I was building my business. I'd say about 85% of all my business comes from Elliman agents.
That's awesome.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah, it is. It is huge. Again, took a long time to build that up, and a lot of investment. But also, I was telling you earlier, a lot of it is repeat business from clients. Maybe someone that bought a small place and they want a bigger place, or we're working with a client that he's down here now and the son's like, I want to get out of New York. I want to leave, and they're coming down here. And so, but we're also, and this is something I want to share. Someone one time asked me when I was speaking, it was a young guy in the back of a room, and he was like, what's the number one thing you like about real estate? And I wasn't expecting that question, but I got the answer pretty quick. And that is, the one great thing about what we do is you just never know. You just never know who you're going to meet. You just never know who you're going to make a connection with. So we had a client that was looking for a place, and he wanted to buy a place on the water, but he wanted a fixer upper, and we're looking like 1.3, 1.5. Those places would have been like 700,000 before COVID. But and he's, a lot of times when they say fixer upper, they're all fixer upper until they get in the fixer upper and realize how much fixing and upping your budget's going to have to do.
So true.
So his budget, he said, it's the max I want to spend. So one day I got up, Elliman agent, Mark Brandt, Fort Lauderdale, relationship.
Yeah.
And he puts out a post on an off-market property in that same area where my client wanted to be, and it was already fixed up. New roof, new pool, new everything. But it was $600,000 above his budget. And so I'm thinking, you know what, I should send this, because if you're going to buy something for 1.3, think about it. You're going to put 600 into it anyways to get it this way.
Right.
And my wife's like, nah, he might think you're pushing. I'm like, no, I'm not pushing him. I'm sharing. Don't have that attitude that like you're helping somebody. I send it to the client. Bam. 5 minutes later, he calls me. He's like, I want to see this. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And since I had a relationship with Mark Brandt, and we were friends, and we met each other, Aspire and Summit. We met at these events. It was probably, matter of fact, I wrote a text to Jay Parker after and said, Jay, this was one of the smoothest transactions I've ever done. Do you want to know why? It was with two like-minded, with the proper mindset Elliman agents, and it was just click, click, click. The seller, the buyer both said one of the smoothest transactions they have. I share that because you just never know. Stop thinking that you're pushy. Don't be like, oh, I don't want to. Now, again, you don't want to be obnoxious. That's a different story. But you want to reach out, and you said that, JD, you're 100% spot on. You want to constantly be engaging. If you're sitting somewhere or you're waiting for a client, don't sit there. Get on the phone and pick up and call somebody. Call a friend. Call an agent. But always be engaging, always be reaching out to people, because the more you do that, and I learned this from a top agent in Boca. If we were sitting around, she would, if we were waiting like at an open house or waiting for someone to come for a showing, she would just get on that phone, man, texting, calling. And I do the same thing. Matter of fact, my neighbors, I live in Florida. I love being outside, not so much in the summer, but my neighbors say that they're like, here's John, this is you. With a phone, this is you. This is how I see you every day. But that's what I do. It's doing business. And like you said earlier, how hard is that to reach out to someone and ask them how they're doing and find out what's going on? I mean, that's easy.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much fun.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
My business is moving in a very solid direction, and I'm super excited. I apologize. I interrupted you.
No.
I do that a lot, and I apologize for that.
Very good. You're good.
But I'm excited of when season kicks in, because I think you're going to get a lot more people coming, and the activity will continue.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things. First, you said was, not being pushy to clients. And I think it's important. People are saying, I mean, it's not, I'm with you too, where like, let's say a home comes on the market, their budget's 1.5, but something comes up that's a little higher kind of thing. It's not, you're saying, hey, client, you should up your budget to buy this. It's more like, hey, I want to make sure you see this so you can kind of formulate everything that you've been thinking. Because to your point, you might say, oh, I really want to buy this at 1.5. But mentally, I knew I had to put some money into it. But all right, well, let me show you this, just so you can kind of put everything together, package together, so you can make that final decision. They might come back to you, go, hey, John, that's perfect. I love that opportunity. That's cool. I'm going to think about it. Or hey, it's slightly above my budget, and you go, cool. I'm glad I know. I want to make sure you saw that. Yeah. And I think clients do appreciate that. It's kind of how you approach it, and I really believe in that, right? So I have clients who's like, hey, what you sent me was awesome. It is slightly over my budget, but let's talk about it. And then they end up buying that home, or they straight up will say, hey, that's just what, I love it. I want to make my home look like that. So that's, you have my vision. I'm like, cool, we're on the same page too, right? So therefore, there's ways you can approach that. And it come back to working with Douglas Elliman agents too. It's awesome. When we don't have a lot of agents quite here yet, but we're obviously building our brand here in Las Vegas. But I agree. When you work with other people on the other side who have the same mentality, like, hey, we're on the same page. Our goal is to make sure the home sells, and when my client buy it, you sell it. But also, we're meeting in the middle for terms. We're good. You know what I mean? That's important. We're on the same side, and that's important too. So there's no better situation than where you can go, hey, cool, I'm working with John Wilson. All right, we're good. This is gonna be a great transaction, right? And I think a lot of agents have egos, and that's something that I don't deal with. I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like, they want to have the upper hand every single time. I'm like, that's not necessary. It's not. We're in this together, and so let's show that we can do good business. And I think I'm sure, John, agents out there like that. You know what I mean? But and you just don't go to that level. You don't suit to that level. And you're like, hey, this is how I conduct my business. This is what I do, and they're going to respect you for that every single time.
And the one thing you have to do, Matthias Fretz, he is a big agent in Jupiter. And not only is he an extremely successful agent, he's a phenomenal husband, a phenomenal father. He's teaching his kids how to surf and skateboard. My kids are like in their late 20s and 30s, but it's funny, two of my kids are heavily involved in skateboarding with Nike and Supreme and things like that. But these relationships that you build with other agents are so important. And the other thing is we were saying something earlier about even in a transaction. So Matthias Fretz, one time he was on a panel and they asked, it was a great question. You should use this on your next podcast with Nike, because the moderator said, what's your superpower? And so Jay Parker, he's one of the fastest thinker on his feet. Jay Parker, we're all in the audience, and Jay Parker's answer was you, the agents. I love that. I love that. That was such a good answer. But Matthias Fretz, his answer was one of the best answers I ever heard. And he said, as an agent, you have to be the calm one.
Yeah.
Being an agent isn't getting in front of a video and dancing around the house and showing. That's all well and good. It's all well and good, and that works for a lot of people. But no, I'll tell you where you really earn your money is bringing that deal to close.
Yep.
Any agent can market a property. Any agent can try to, but no, getting that deal to close is one of the most important things. And what Matthias was saying was that you're the agent. You're the professional. You have to remain calm. You can't. And if the other agent is drama, house on fire every day, and there's lots of them out there, you can't jump in his or her pool. Right. Let them swim in that pool by themselves.
Right.
You have to be the calm one. You have to be the one that guides it through, because it's so important not to get all cranked up. And I've had agents say things that ticked me off before, but I'm not jumping in that fray. I'm not doing it. Who's the other agent? I respect them, even if I don't know them, but I'm going to remain calm, and I'm going to bring that deal to close for my clients, because that's what you're getting the money for. Right. You're not getting the money to get dressed up and show a house. No, it's not it. It's bringing the deal to close.
Agreed. Yeah, there's been many instances where something should go south, like real estate does. I mean, there's never a perfect deal, and that's not a thing. But and so your clients go like, "Are you not concerned?" I'm like, "No. I mean, obviously comes experience. We've seen everything. We've seen. So this is what we got to do. You just got to pivot, right? You just got to pivot. Is what we're going to do. Is what's going to look like. And if they see you're calm, they're going to be just fine, right? But if they see your client sees you flustered, they're going to be like, whoa, what should we be terrified right now? Is something bad going to happen, kind of thing? But obviously comes with experience, but also holding it down. And that's super important. You know what I mean? Like saying, hey, everything's going to be okay. This is what it looks like. I've seen this before. You know what I mean? So not to worry. And so once they see that in you, it's tenfold, right? It's just so important, because now they have complete trust in you. Like, all right, this guy has it. He's got control on it. Even if things should go south or pivot, this guy will take care of me. And that's important too, even though, like you said, John, the other side is just everything's on fire, everything is bad, everything is awful. And And that's happened. I mean, countless times. And I'm just on the other side of the phone going, all right, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. All right, call me back. And they go, okay. You know what I mean? So I get it. You know what I mean?
And the more they raise their voice, what I'll do when someone starts getting all cranked up, I'll start to lower my voice even
Yeah, yeah,
softer,
yeah,
stay calm. Because when you do that, you are in control,
yeah,
and the other person is out of control.
yeah,
And the funny thing is, do you want to know something?
yeah.
Um, I turned 60 a few months ago, and I got this question all the time. They were like, "So, you're 60. What have you learned in life, and this and that?" And I'm going to speak French, but I would be like, I worried about so much stupid shit that never happened, all the way from when I was a kid up to now. I don't do it as much now the older I get. My dad says when you turn 40, you start to get more confidence, and he's totally right, because you just don't get afraid anymore because you've seen so much crazy stuff. But all that worrying and stuff, everything works out in the end. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're at. Most things in life work out. And what I'll tell you, this is not my saying, but you're going to find that life is, watch this, 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it.
Right.
So if something happens and I go into this meltdown, and your mind, what happens is you start feeding your mind these negative thoughts, and your mind takes off and goes, oh, let's grab these and run with them.
Right.
And it just becomes a ball. And the funny thing is there was a sales trainer. I'm dating myself, but you can Google him. He was phenomenal. His name was Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
And I would go I was probably like 20 years old. I would go to his 2-day seminars and stuff like that. And he talked about worrying, because right now in our world, there's lots of fear and worry. I can see it. I can see it in people's eyes. And he would say, now you wouldn't do this nowadays. You could use notes on your iPhone. But what he used to say is, he said, take a shoebox and take a pad of paper with you. Again, you could do this in notes now with technology. He goes, and write every worry that comes to your mind throughout the day, every day for 30 days. And then when you're done with that, put it in the shoebox, and just do that for 30 days. And what you'll realize, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. You could be in real estate. You could not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you took that shoebox and you emptied it, I will almost 100% guarantee you that 90% of those notes that you wrote never happened. Never happened. Yet you acted like they were. You stressed your body out. It's bad for your body. My mom ran a whole floor of a hospital when we were kids. She's a general nurse.
Yeah.
And she would say that stress is bad. It produces chemicals and things. So, and someone says, okay, John, that sounds all good for you. You're sick at it. What about me? Again, what did we say? We have to be able, when those thoughts enter, you control your mind. Your
Right.
mind doesn't control you. When those thoughts of maybe getting angry, maybe getting fearful, maybe want, just sort of cut that off, or let it go. Tony Robbins does something where he says, break your pattern. Like, break your pattern. I remember when I was studying, this is crazy. I've only said this like 3 times before, but I was so jacked up to get my real estate license, and I'm studying, like I'm running a business and studying at night.
Yeah.
I'm just going nonstop at it. And Lisa took her test, she passed. And so I'm in my car. I drive a Suburban, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm like, wow, I'm nervous. Like I know me. I can't step into that test feeling this way. I had to break my pattern. And so what I did was I cranked my stereo up in my Suburban, and I put on Elvis Presley live and his opening song. Now it's called CC Rider. You'd know the song. It's like da da
Oh,
da da da
I
da.
know it. Yeah.
And Elvis comes, and I used to love that song. So I put that on in my Suburban. God knows if someone walked by the car, what was happening. And I shut my eyes, and I envisioned in myself, in my head, I envisioned me going in the room, being calm, taking the test, knowing the answers. Why? Because I prepared. I over prepared. It's a great thing, trait to have in life. And I get into the test, and I know you and I haven't been in school in a long time, but when you took a test and you studied hard enough, like you knew the answer. Like sometimes you'd be like, but if you worked and prepped, you knew. It's like, I know the
Before the
first 10
question, before
questions,
you finish the question, you're like, oh, I know the answer. Yeah. Yeah.
first 10 questions, bam, 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 bam,
Yeah.
bam, bam.
Yeah.
I knew them all, and it worked. And it's funny, but visualization. I'm not saying, name it, claim it, not that type of stuff. But what I'm saying is I don't know if you ever heard this, JD, but the number one trait of Olympic athletes, gold medal athletes, number one trait over history is they visualize their sport. And if you don't believe it, go YouTube Michael Phelps, and you're going to see Michael Phelps before he gets in the water closing his eyes. And what he said he did was, he said before he hit the water, he already raced that race in his head.
Yep.
And you can do that with anything. And so now what I do, now if someone's with me, I won't do this, but if I'm by myself and I have a showing or I have a listing appointment, sit in the car, ba-da-ba, and I get that, and I just start envisioning it because, like, I'm in a building. Someone had to have vision to see this building, the architect, but someone had to have the vision. It just didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You can direct your whole life with visualization. You can see I'm passionate about it, but I'm telling you, it works. So people that say, "Well, I'm nervous," start changing your pattern. Start looking at yourself in a different way. And if you do that, your mind will start to believe that that's you.
100%. That's funny. I do the exact same thing without putting a name to it. I'm that person too. Like where I'm like, all right, this is what's going to look like. This is how I'm going to do it. Kind of thing. You really, you put that out there. Once you put that out there, you just execute now, right? So now it's all, I almost like muscle memory in your mind, I guess you can say that it is. You know what I mean? And so I remember when I was going to get my real estate license too, I had this routine where I had my Bluetooth headset on. I'd go for a run and I'd play a song that motivated me too, just like your Elvis. And don't forget, we're Vegas. We know Elvis. And so I put my headphones on and I would run, but that was my motivation. I'm like, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to pass my test. I'm going to become a top agent. And I do that for a solid 3 months every day. And I was like, that was in me. It was almost nothing was going to derail me from that because I was so ingrained in that. That's what I saw. And I mean, I didn't see anything but that, right? And so obviously, was it perfect? No. I mean, let's be real. But it was there. I saw myself being in that point. I saw myself being there, right? And that's what it comes to. And I truly believe in that always. I mean, I tell a lot of people that you got to see yourself doing it. You also got to believe that you can do it, and that's important too. That doubt will derail you every single time.
Yeah. And yet we let it. Definitely let that move us around a lot. But like I said, does that happen? Like, let's say I'm a person that doesn't have all that confidence, or let's say that I'm struggling with worry and stuff. I'm not saying that playing Elvis Presley, CC Rider live, but what I am saying is it's a start. Remember, we started this conversation where if I go to the gym, I'm not going to see a difference. If I try to lose weight, it's going to take time. But if you stay at it, life's not about getting from here to here overnight.
The journey.
It's not about that whatsoever. It's about steps. Like I was speaking out in Long Island, and this is weird. I've been on the Long Island Railway a bunch of times, and I'm waiting for the train, and I look down and I see this big, big sign. I took a picture of it with my iPhone, and it said, "Watch the gap." So I was telling a friend of mine who's from London this, and he says, "Oh my God, we have the same thing in London, but it says mind the gap." And what that is saying is when the train pulls up, there's a space, there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be in life. And that train can take you there. But you have to watch your mind and your mental capacity, not to think, I'm going to go from here. No, that's what watch the gap means. Be careful. There's a space of time, and you have to watch your mind and how you think. And if you stay with that growth, and whether that's meditating in the morning or praying or whatever you do to start your day, visualizing, you slowly will change. No one changes overnight. That's the problem with diets. Everybody wants to lose a ton. No, it took you a while to gain the weight. It's going to take you a while to lose weight. And it's the same thing in this business.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It really is. You know what I mean? How people have said, like, man, I'm glad to hear, but man, that journey was awesome. Like what I learned, what I accomplished, and there's no better feeling to say even when it was down, it was dark, I came through. I came through, I pulled through, and look where I'm at today. I mean, there's no better feeling than that.
And that's where real confidence
Yeah.
It comes from, my kids laugh. Here's my saying. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think.
Yeah, true.
Just stay in the middle.
That's true. That's
I
true.
know you have some last questions. I talk too much.
No, I can talk to you for hours. So, all right. So obviously real estate has changed dramatically. I mean, since I've been 7 years, you've been 6 years. I've seen already a massive change and shift in how we're doing real estate. In the next 5 years, with a lot of what's going on in the country, where people can work where they want, their interest rates, the economy, there's so many, and also technology, AI, chat GP, all those things. Where do you see real estate in the 5 years? I know you don't have a crystal ball, John. I'm sure your clients ask you all the time, as they ask me all the time.
Yeah.
But what do you see happening? I mean, we are boots on the ground. We can kind of see it in the forefront. But what do you see happening in the next 5 years?
So right now, remember the Johnny Carson picture on the beach? I've been in Florida. My dad was involved in real estate. My grandfather was involved in real estate. My uncle was a big commercial real estate guy in Fort Lauderdale, and I saw the Florida economy just go boom bust, boom bust, boom, but it just kept going higher. And my dad, I remember it had to be. I think Miami Vice was popular. It was like 80s.
Don Johnson.
Yeah. And my dad was saying to us, my dad was a very special man. I try to do the same thing with my kids. He always gave us wisdom and guidance and direction. And so was my grandfather. And my dad said, I remember it was like in the 80s. Now that was Cocaine Cowboys. And if you never heard of that, there's literally a documentary you should watch. It's called Cocaine Cow. It's all about Miami in the 80s and stuff like that. But the rest of the country was going through like a tough time. And my dad says, this place is recession proof. It's so unique. It's one of the southernmost points of the United States. It's beautiful. We have weather, aside from a few months of super hot weather. It's gorgeous. And so my thing is I see real estate as far as pricing wise, I see real estate starting to go up. Now I'm going to say something that'll probably go against what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about, well, interest rates are going to go down soon. It's going to go down soon. Huh? So don't assume that so quickly, because one, there's still a lot of inflation around, and
Right.
we're bringing it down. But I'm not saying they should raise rates at all, but if they start bringing it down too quickly, that's going to rise its face back up, inflation, and it's going to hurt us. So what I think people should do is look. I was with one of my clients who's a very successful man, one of the most successful men in the United States in financial services, and I'm not bragging.
Yeah.
And he said to me, look, rates at 6 or 7% for a mortgage, are you really going to get upset about that? Do you know historically that's still an extremely low number, very, very low number. I can remember when in the 70s, I think Jimmy Carter was president, but the interest rates were at 18%. My brother bought a Volkswagen Scirocco. I'll never forget a black special edition one, and his rate was 18% interest. So I think rates are stable. I don't think home prices, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of people that are prognosticators and, there's good. I don't see it really coming down a lot. Could it come down a little bit? I don't see Florida coming down at all. I'm sorry. There's too many people to come. I love New York. My children are in New York. I'm in New York all the time, but New York is dirty. It's messy. The people are great, but it needs a clean out.
Sure.
And that's why a lot of people are coming to Florida. You're getting a lot of Californians coming here. So I think our prices will remain steady. And 5 years from now, it's funny you say your client. So the client that bought the house that was looking for 1.3 ended up buying for 1.9. Said to me, he goes, John, what do you think? And what do you think about me buying this house? I said, well, it depends on your viewpoint. If you're planning on buying this house and in a year selling it for more money than you paid for it, I can't really tell you what's going to happen. But if you bought this house and you're planning on staying here for 4 to 5 years, I would pretty much be safe to say, again, I'm not a prognosticator. You could just Google a chart of South Florida real estate prices, just like the Dow.
Yep.
It keeps going up. And so in 5 years from now, I think real estate prices were higher. I don't think we're going back to where we were before. I don't think we'll ever go back. And I'm going to explain to you, that's not in real estate. That's in every business. I love Chevy Suburbans. It's my favorite car. It's big. I can get a driver. I get black on black. I can put surfboards, golf courses, golf bags, everything in it. And I want to get a new one right now because they changed the body and stuff like that. And I'm on the phone with my guy at a Chevy dealer. And I said, well, and this is like people talking about houses. He laughed, but I was like, I can remember when I used to be able to lease a Suburban, and I'd put like $3,000 down, and it was like $750 a month. And he's like, John, those days are over. We're never going back to those. And he's right, because now a lease on a Suburban is like $5,000 down and like $1,200 a month, and like the days of a really nice car for seven. It's not like even small cars. So my point is inflation. What happened? It's just a shift, and I don't see prices. I'm not saying prices can't come up. I'm just saying I don't see us going back to the way they are. As far as real estate, I find that like all this, like the Zillows and this and that, I just find that, like my dad used to say, just stay around long enough and you'll address yourself. They provide value, computer generated value, but there's really not a face-to-face interaction. And I know that my clients and your clients, they're always going to want to deal with a real estate professional. They don't know what they're doing. They know that we're here to fight for them. We're here to lift them up. We're even there. One of the best qualities to have as an agent is to be empathetic. You know, if someone's like, I had a young couple buying a house and they said, you know, I'm nervous. And I'm like, well, of course you're going to be nervous. You're about to spend the most money you ever spent in your life. And we had a house picked out, and the inspection went through, and the girl called me. It's my Lisa and I's closest friend, Greg and Debbie. It's their daughter. Yeah. And she called me and she goes, John, I just don't feel right. Like my gut feeling. Now, some agents, if you're about to commission and you're like, well, I got this commission, it's what would be like, no. I was like, well, let's talk about that. And we spent like 10 minutes on the phone. Yep. And I advised, I'm like, if I was you, I wouldn't move forward. It's okay to be nervous, but what you're telling me is you just don't feel that it's for you. You don't have that feel for it, and life's about feel. And anyways, what I'm point I'm making is we canceled the contract. 2 days later, we find a much better house, way happier. It's that personal touch that's going to make a difference.
I agree. Yeah, I'm the same way. I think when you come, like I said, back to the whole caring aspect, right? Really listening to them and find out what they want to do. And yeah, I've been to the point too where like, hey, they call me, same thing, like, hey, do we make the right decision? And I'm like, hey guys, obviously this is your decision, but let's go over what we bought, right? This is what is the reason why I bought, and then go, okay, no, we're good. Or they go, oh, we didn't think this through. I'm like, that's okay, you know what I mean? And they're like, are you not mad? I'm like, no, I want to find the right home for you. I mean, trust me, there's going to be others. I'm not worried about it, right? But it would make me more upset if you didn't tell me. We closed, and you're like, JD, we're not happy. I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me? You know what I mean? That's important. You know what I mean? So I always say that up in the front, transparency is everything for me. You tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling, so I know how to support you guys. If you're not completely transparent with me, that there's gonna be some kind of loss in translation. Someone's not gonna be happy, and we never want that either.
No.
Just yesterday, I was in showings all day, and all day, and she's coming out of moving relocation to Vegas, and I toured the whole city, and she's like, I'm so thankful, you just listen. And I'm like, yeah, guys, this is not my home, this is your home, you know what I mean? I'm here to support you guys, that's my job. And like, you don't seem pushy. I'm like, no guys, this is about you guys. And they're like, I think you're successful. I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but it's just over time, we're not about the checks and the commission checks. It's about really helping people, and by doing that, our business flourishes because people know that about us. You know what I mean? So we're not fishing, we're not cold calling. No, we're just helping our current clients, and they refer people and friends and family. And of course, when other agents like yourself know that, then they know who they need to go to in those markets.
And again, remember, they're going to feel that.
100%.
If you try to fake that, I'm sorry, you're wasting your time. They're totally going to feel that. And I love when you said tour. We not only show them the house, we show them the area.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the area, you can't make a decision.
Yeah.
So you're spot on with that. Yeah. I've so much enjoyed this. I think I got to Vegas, come out to Vegas and see you guys, what I got to do.
Let's go. All right. We're actually at almost 58 minutes. We're doing amazing, John. You're awesome. I have two more questions for you. Okay. Because you have so much, insight from your experience, not only in real estate, but in life in general. What piece of advice would you give any agent, whether it be established agent, new agent? I'm sure people reach out to you all the time, like, well, John, what's the secret sauce? And I always say to me, I'm like, there's no secret sauce, but there's a lot of things you can do to become successful. But what advice would you give someone right now?
We have a few minutes. So I'll be brief on the answer. Mindset, how you think, Like, how do you wake up in the morning? Like, what do you wake up and say, wow, this is an awesome day. I feel good. I'm excited. Or do you wake up, oh my God, I got to deal with this client or my broker's all like that space wherever you start your day. So as a new agent and an experienced agent, because I spoke recently somewhere and they said, oh, well, you really didn't relate to the older people in the room. Really? Well, every older person after I was done came up to me and was like, that was the most amazing thing. And I'm so glad you said that. So I would say have a ritual, have a morning ritual. There's a book called Tools of Titans. It was written by Tim Ferriss. Read it if you haven't.
Yep.
It's all about the traits of billionaires. And one of the number one traits that comes up with all these successful men is they get up early and they have a routine. So my routine is getting up early. Before my feet hit the ground, I lay in bed and I think of three things I'm thankful for before my feet hit the ground. And anyone can do that. And then I sit and I meditate a little bit. I visualize. I don't open up anything about work or anything like that until I'm ready. That's probably one of the best traits to do. And the last thing to say is before you go to bed at night, think of three things that you were thankful for that day. Fear and gratitude, they cannot coexist. You can't do both at the same time.
Yep.
And fear is one of the biggest killers of success. So
Agreed.
believe in yourself and have the right mindset.
Agreed. I'm the first one for sure. I'm a morning person. I love morning routines. I love that. I'm totally about that. That's how I start my morning. But I'm that guy like you, John. I'm like, I'm happy. I wake up happy. I'm good to go kind of thing. And so people find me annoying at times.
Yeah, me too.
So I am that person. And my wife's that person like, don't talk to me.
That's sweet.
You know what I mean? And so I learned that. But I'm a morning person. But I'm also like on the way here, I'm just a positive songs on, but I love coming to work every single day. I really do, because I knew there's a new person I'm going to meet. There's a new challenge ahead of me, and it's also very rewarding. So I like I said, I think, but also it really depends on what you do for life, right? If you don't have that feeling in the morning where you're excited, maybe you're in the wrong industry. Maybe you're doing the wrong thing, right? So to your point, you can't fake it. You can't fake it. It's,
No.
I think the true people who are really good are the ones who are extremely passionate about what they do. I on my days off, I'm reading about real estate. I mean, people are like, do you ever get tired of it? I'm like, I really honestly don't. I really don't. You know what I mean? And that's when you excel in what you do, is because you're passionate about it, and you always want to know more about it and how you can be better for your clients. You know what I mean? So I think that's what separates the people who really take off to the ones who do well. Don't get me wrong, but the ones who really like, wow, this guy knows a lot. And so I think that's huge. So I love those pointers. I'm sure a lot of people are going to take that from you. So last two questions, quick and easy here. John, where can they find you? Obviously, I think you have a lot of good stuff out there. Where can they find you? I put your name above you. That's his tag for his Instagram, johnwilson.elliman, so you can follow him there. But
you can also just you just Google John Wilson, Douglas Elliman, Palm Beach. I'm out of the Palm Beach office. I'm in Boca today because Palm Beach, we were having a meeting up there and I wouldn't be able to do this. So I came here, but you can Google it. My area code, it's weird. It's like 570. It's a number from Pennsylvania. I can't get rid of it. Tons of my clients have it. And I encourage, I can't tell you, I say, hey, give me a call. Don't be bashful. I'm here. One of the biggest commitments Lisa and I have is to our clients, but also to our fellow agents to help them. And that's why I'm on podcasts. That's why I go speak at offices throughout the Northeast, is because I'm about encouraging and lifting others. So you reach out to me anytime, man, and we can talk.
That's awesome. That says all the agents, please reach out to Johnny. He's obviously a lot of information. And if you want to have someone just lighten your day, he's your guy. I mean, you can just say, hey, come on, make me happy. Also, tell me, where do you do your business? What's your main areas and territory?
My main business would be Palm Beach, the island and West Palm and Boca Raton. Okay. But like right now, I'm working, fingers crossed, on a $10 million listing in Miami right now. And I'm not foolish enough to think that I know every market, because I don't. And if you have that attitude, you're not servicing your clients properly because you don't know. And so I'll partner up with an agent that I have a very strong relationship with there, and we'll do it together. So that's the main areas are Palm Beach and stuff, but I do things in Fort Lauderdale. And in Miami, I tell people, if you don't know anyone in Miami, call me, because I know who's who in Miami, and I know who the right agents are to work with.
Awesome. All right, last fun bonus question. So I like to ask the last question that makes you kind of think a little bit. I read a question that made me think about it. There's a bonus question. So knowledge or money. If someone were to give you $6 million today and walk away and you're right in the sunset, or you can go back in time with the knowledge you have right
Back
now.
in time.
There
Back
you
in
go.
time.
100%, 100%, 100%. That's my answer every single time of the week.
I would be, I don't know where I'd be, but I would definitely have a Falcon jet for sure.
Very cool, very cool. Well, John, we hit 1:05. I enjoyed you so much. You are just a light, and obviously Douglas Elliman is excited or lucky to have you out in Florida. I'm excited to meet you in person as well. I'm sure I'll be attending events, Aspire, and whatnot. I went last year, so
yeah, Aspire for sure. You want to go to that. It's amazing. And
yeah, I went.
Gotta go. It's in Palm Beach. Yes,
I went last year. Oh no, I went last year and it was awesome. So I went last year in California. It was great. So I hope to do that again and meet some other ones. So I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Good luck in Florida. Can you continue doing what you do? Continue to inspire. And I appreciate you very much, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Laura for helping set this up also. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Have a good one. Take care. Thank you.